Hello YouTube, it's me Bergie, and I'm here with a library book haul. Now before I get into it, I won't have any of the library books here with me because this batch of library books I have read for the most part and already returned back to my library because I just have not been on top of filming. Everything's been hectic. I started going back to work. We were doing curbside pickup for a while, and then we are now open to letting people come into the library, and it's been a lot, both anxiety-wise and then just trying to get prepared for having people come in work-wise. But anyway, I digress. So this book haul is going to be a collection of books that are written by Black authors, both fiction and nonfiction, because after the initial protesting due to the murders of George Floyd, Breonna Taylor, and a whole bunch of other people, because the fact is that Black people get killed by police way too frequently. Like, it's like daily or something like that, which is just wrong. And I've always considered myself an ally, but I realized I wasn't actually being the best ally, especially when it comes to like the different medias I consume. So after this initial protesting started in June, I think, I decided to put my foot down and be like, I need to start reading more diversely. It was always something on my mind, but I never actually did it. So when I was able to go to the library, because I work there, I picked up all of the Black literature that I could, both, again, nonfiction and fiction, that I had on my radar, but just for some reason was not picking up. So I did force myself to do that, because me waiting to do it naturally or organically wasn't happening. And that was not the right way. So I have a lot of books by Black authors or about racism and that kind of stuff. And then I just have other books that I was just kind of interested in reading. So let's go to all of the former category, all of the books by Black authors. First up was Kindred by Octavia Butler. I've had this on my eye for a while because it is kind of a classic modern science fiction novel, and I love science fiction, or at least I say I do, but I don't really express that with the literature I read. So this was a good thing to read initially to help me kind of see how I feel truly about science fiction. So Kindred follows Dana, who is a Black woman living in the 1970s, who then finds herself being time traveled in some mysterious way, it's never really explained, back to the 1800s in order to save a white family member. Now this is the 1800s in America. I'm pretty sure they were in Maryland, but that might be incorrect. Dana, during her present 1970s time, was living in California, so she not only jumped through time, she jumped through space. But yeah, so during the 1800s in Maryland, I think it was, they obviously had slaves. So she has to navigate not only trying to save her white ancestor, but also navigate being a Black woman in the 1800s during slavery, in a very slave-centric and racist time period and setting. And it was interesting. It was short, though. I'm not going to go into my thoughts really here, but I did enjoy it. I don't think, though, time-traveling science fiction is my thing. I more preferred the socio-political aspects that were kind of raised in the book rather than the actual time-traveling. Then I had The Color of Law, A Forgotten History of How Our Government Segregated America by Richard Rothstein. Obviously, this is written by a white man, but he is looking at how the different policies for zoning houses over the years was inherently racist and caused a lot of racist thought because of segregating people and making poor Black people a kind of villain, I guess, towards white people, like the middle-class white people, which, I mean, it's kind of happening again with what Trump's been saying about, like, housing and urban moms and that kind of stuff. I just, yeah, I'll actually go into this a little bit more. I do plan on doing a book review on 3 nonfiction books that I will mention also in this video. But yeah, it just really opened my eyes to how how racist our entire government system and our different government organizations and that kind of stuff are. And I mean, I knew we weren't the best country with that kind of stuff, but the reality of it is so much worse than I thought it was, and it angers me so much. I then had How to Be an Anti-Racist by Ibram X. Kendi. This is pretty much a good primer for learning about racism / anti-racism, how to be a good ally, and that kind of stuff. And again, I'll kind of get into this more in that other more detailed book review, but I just wanted to mention that it has a lot of definitions, which the semantics lover in me really enjoyed and appreciated. And then it also provided a lot of personal anecdotes of Kendi's own experience trying to become anti-racist, or at least a better anti-racist. I then picked up Their Eyes Were Watching God by Zora Neale Hurston. Now, I have no idea why I picked this up initially, or like why it was on my TBR initially. It might have just been because it is kind of a classic Black piece of literature, but for some reason I feel like it might have been connected to some kind of not mythology thing, because after reading it, it's definitely not related to any like Greek mythology thing, but I feel like the way someone had described it kind of put it on my radar in that kind of way. But don't go into reading it like that, like with that thought process in mind, because it's not correct. This follows a woman, oh, is her name Janie? I think her name was Janie. Yes, I was right, it was Janie. It follows Janie, who was raised by her grandmother, her grandmother was a slave, who then was kind of living on the property of her white master, although she wasn't technically a slave still, but she worked for them. So anyway, Janie goes through life first living for what her grandmother wanted her, and then doing what she thought she wanted her to better her life, and then actually going for actual true love. So it's basically just a book about Janie's life, and it was really interesting to see how she lived during the time. I don't know if they said what years it's supposed to take place. This was written in the 30s, I'm pretty sure, but it showed the hardships of a Black woman's life right after slavery. Well, not right after slavery ended, but like with the ramifications of slavery and the ending of slavery, and then trying to navigate through life, trying to satisfy her grandmother, and then trying to satisfy what she thinks she should want, and then satisfying her true feelings. So I thought it was really interesting, and I do recommend it. At first, I was like, oh, this is just like a historical fiction kind of, I don't know why, but it felt like contemporary, like, you know what I mean? It was more about an everyday life. But as I got farther along in it, it was just, the writing was just magnificent. It was so good. It kept me hooked, even though it was just about a person's life, and I just really enjoyed it, so I definitely recommend it. I then also had Americanah by Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie. I had read her 2 feminist works before, and I wanted to read her fiction novels. Unfortunately though, I had to return this before I could read it, but I am still interested in getting it back at some point to read. This is a contemporary novel following a man and a woman from Nigeria who love each other, but they want to try to escape Nigeria because, I think it was because of some kind of political unrest or something like that. They just wanted to escape. The female, I'm pretty sure, was able to make it to America. The man was not, but somehow ended up in the UK, and I think eventually they made up again, but at that point they've lived so different lives that I'm sure it's going to be difficult to kind of get back to the relationship to how it was before. But yeah, I'm really interested in reading this. I might though read another one of her fiction novels first. I think, what is it called? Something Yellow Sunrise or something like that. I'm kind of interested in reading that, even though I don't really know what it's about, primarily because the title has yellow in it, and Yellow's my favorite color, which I know is a really stupid reason to want to read a book. But I really enjoyed Ngozi Adichie's writing in her 2 feminist novels, and I really want to read one of her fiction novels. I then also had Naughts and Crosses by Malorie Blackman. This has been on my radar for a while because I've heard that it's kind of dystopian-esque. I wouldn't call it a true dystopian, and even on the cover of the book it's subtitled a thriller, so I don't even know if the author meant for it to be very dystopic, but there are definitely dystopian elements in it. So that was one of the initial reasons why I wanted to pick it up. Now the whole premise of this is that the world is kind of flipped, or it's an alternate reality where black people were kind of the masters and the white people were slaves. So you're kind of seeing history. I think it's in a UK-like world because the author is from the UK, but it's never really specified, I don't think. But anyway, so we're following a black person who is a cross and a white man who, or a white boy because he was young when the book started, who is a knot. I know I confused that a little bit, but as they try to navigate the different socio-political aspects of life where the kind of power dynamics are flipped to our normal life. Now, it was really interesting to see it depicted that way, and I'm pretty sure if a lot of white people who want to stay neutral in this whole debate of Black Lives Matter, which I don't want to get into here, but they'd be like, hey, the white people being depicted in this are not being treated fairly, and it hopefully would show them that that's exactly how black people have historically been treated by white people. So it kind of, I don't want to say it puts it more in perspective for white people, because white people should be able to see the ill treatment of black people in real life as it is, but if they're having trouble with it, there would be no trouble in this book because the roles are reversed. And I thought it was really interesting. For the first, I want to say 2/3, I was reading it again primarily because of the socio-political discussions that were kind of happening below the surface of the plot. But towards the end, oh my god, I was hooked. And I was so angry because my library only has this first book. So I wanted to immediately get the second and third. I think this might actually be a 6-book series, but I wanted to at least get the next book, but I couldn't because we didn't have it. And I'm pretty sure it's out of print, or it's only recently getting reprinted, so it's really hard to access as it is. I'm just looking forward to see where the story goes, because the ending of the first book, damn, just damn, it was amazing, and it was very thrilling. That last part, I can definitely see why she subtitled it a thriller. So those are all of the books that I got that had to deal with or were written by black authors or dealt with racism and that kind of stuff. I will have another book haul come up very soon because, as I said, I did return all of these, and I did then take out more books, and I'm kind of still in this vein of trying to read more diversely. There are more than just black authors in it, but I'm still trying to focus on making sure I read books by black authors, because I need to continue this on and not just do it now when it's kind of a hot topic in our real lives. I genuinely want to continue this this pattern forward of reading more diversely. But anyway, the other books that I read. I did get 4 of the Anne of Green Gables books, because during the pandemic, when I was not working at all and just staying in our apartment, I did read Anne of Green Gables for the first time by Ellen Montgomery, and then I did watch the Netflix adaptation, Anne with an E, and became obsessed. So I picked up Anne of Avonlea, Anne of the Island, Anne of Windy Poplars, and Anne's House of Dreams, all again by Ellen Montgomery. So if you don't know what the first book, Anne of Green Gables, is about, it's basically about an orphan who has ginger hair, which is a big thing to her. She gets mistakenly adopted by a brother and sister who are in the later or the older stages of life, and it was a mistake. They wanted to get a boy so that way they could have help around their property, but Anne shows up and is the one that they end up adopting, and she's a very quirky girl and gets in a lot of trouble, which I can totally relate to, even though I don't intend to get in like little embarrassing issues and that kind of stuff. I find myself getting in that a lot, and it's embarrassing. But yeah, we just see her go through life. The first book is set during her early stages of life. I'm pretty sure Anne of Avonlea is when she first goes to college. Anne of the Island, I think, is when she is teaching. Anne of Windy Poplars is when she's teaching, I think, somewhere else. And then Anne's House of Dreams is when a lot of great things happen to my fangirl heart, which I'm not gonna tell you guys about because that would be a spoiler. But I really enjoyed this series. There are definitely issues with it, and I think the Anne with an E TV show kind of made it a little bit more aware of some issues that were in this book. But it's kind of the same case as like the Little House on the Prairie books, where yeah, they were written during a time where it wasn't as, again, aware of different types of people or different, just that. So it was interesting. I'm on the edge of my seat waiting for the 6th book to come to me, because I've had it on hold since I started working again at the library. But someone has it out and they've been hoarding it. So yeah, I can't wait to get the next book, and I think there's one more book after that in this series, but I'm pretty sure Ella Montgomery has written other books that are connected to the Anne of Green Gables. So I'm very excited for that. I then picked up 3 Agatha Christie books, because if you don't know, I'm reading Agatha Christie's mystery novels in publication order. So I picked up The Seven Dials Mystery, Partners in Crime, and The Mysterious Mr. Quinn. I was able to read the first 2, but I did not get to The Mysterious Mr. Quinn before I returned it. So The Seven Dials Mystery, that was not a Hercule Poirot book. I think it is part of a series. Like, we did see some of the characters before. What was it called? Something with chimneys. It has some of the same characters as that book, but it's not one of Agatha Christie's better known series, I don't think. So I'm not going to talk about it much because it is a mystery, so you want to go into it not knowing much. But it was interesting. I don't think it was my favorite of hers, but it was a good read. Partners in Crime was a Tommy and Twopence novel, and I love the first Tommy and Twopence I read, which, I don't remember the title of it because I read it a while ago, but I did enjoy it. This one was not as enjoyable because it kind of read as short stories. That there was an underlying connection between all of them, but it was so thin that it kind of read more like short stories. But once it kind of came together at the end, I really enjoyed that, but for the majority of the beginning, I was a little bored, and it kind of made me slumpy, to say the least. And then The Mysterious Mr. Quinn, I think that's the first Miss Marple book, and I was looking forward to reading a Miss Marple mystery, because that's, along with her Hercule Poirot, that's one of her more well-known mystery series, so I wanted to get my hands on one of them, but unfortunately I didn't read it. That might be wrong though, because again, I don't go into knowing what Christie's mystery novels are about. I just kind of pick them up in order and read them. So I might be wrong. But yeah, so those are the 3 Agatha Christie's I had picked up. And then I picked up The Kingdom of Copper by S.A. Chakraborty, which is a sequel to The City of Brass, which I read earlier this year and absolutely loved after having put it off of my TBR and not picking up for like 3 years of owning the physical book. So I was excited to get the second novel, because at that point the 3rd book did not come out. So I was still on track to being caught up to the series. I read it. I will say that the first half of it or so was a little bit slow, but once I got into it and read it extremely quickly. I plan on doing a full series review on this series, but for now, if you don't know, The City of Brass follows Nari as she gets dragged into a political intrigue sort of situation in a world that she did not know existed, that contains a lot of magical people. Now, I'll say I'm kind of confused on the different types of like Deva and Jinn and what's the difference between them and that kind of stuff, but she finds herself in their world and having to navigate that. And the second book kind of continues with trying to navigate all of the political issues and challenges that she finds herself in. I just really enjoyed it, and if you haven't picked up the series yet, definitely do, because it's an amazing fantasy political novel or series that's set in a non-European setting, which I've kind of been craving lately with my wanting to read more diversely. Like, even just my mood, though, has been in non-Western European fantasy settings, and this definitely scratched that itch. And then lastly, I did have King of Ithaca by Glenn Leafy. This is the first in a series that follows Odysseus's life kind of through the Trojan War. In this book specifically, we don't get to the Trojan War yet. It's kind of the background of Odysseus's life right before the setup to the Trojan War happens. So it follows him, what do I want to say? Him getting to Penelope. Let's just say that. At first, I was kind of like, this is stupid. I already know this because I've studied ancient Greek literature and specifically Homer's Odyssey and Iliad. But it was really interesting to see it all kind of brought together in a single narrative, because a lot of the ancient sources, they're not really all told in one space. Like, I don't know how I knew some of the stuff I knew about Odysseus because it's not explicitly mentioned in the Odyssey, but I'm sure through other tragedians or comedians and that kind of stuff, I've kind of gotten it or absorbed it, but it was nice to actually read it on paper, so that was good. And I definitely recommend that one, especially if you are into ancient Greek literature or related literature. But yeah, those are all the books that I picked up during this library book haul. I will be coming to you with another library book haul really soon. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this. I hope you guys have read some of these books or are interested in reading them now. And if you have read them, I would love to discuss your thoughts on some of them. And yeah, I know this is super awkward because it's the first time I'm filming in months. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in whatever I make next. Bye.